Okay, so here's my letterbox now. So all I did was I put the tea and the coffee all over it. To get these darker areas, you just pop some coffee over it and just let it dry, and you get these really nice marks. Did a little bit of green pencil around the edge, went round it in my black fine liner, and then I just did a little bit of pencil work. So then we need to carefully cut open our flap. So this is now for week's 2's lesson. So that in here now we're going to pop a set of eyes. So this is why we folded it in half. If you haven't done that, just get another piece of paper and pop it on the back. And when you've opened that, draw yourself your rectangle so then you're ready for your eyes. Now this is going back to year 7 work when we did our portraits. So you need to find a pair of eyes. You could either take a photo of your own, of somebody at home, find them on the internet, look at the ones on the example that I've given you, and you can decide whether they want to be happy eyes, angry eyes. They could be open, they could be closed. It's totally up to you. But we need to remember the basics about when we're doing our eyes. So if you remember, your head is 5 eyes wide. So if you decide that one of your eyes is going to be that size, we need an eyes distance between. So if you get your pencil, measure it with your pencil. So I've got my point there. Do that there. Pop a little dash. Do it again. I know now that I've got my eyes distanced apart. So I've got an eye's width here, 1 eye, 2 eyes. So you need to remember that. Okay? So that's eye number 1 from there. Eye number 2, which is where your nose would go. And then eye number 3. If you were going to the side of your head, you have then another eye's width there and another eye's width there, which gives you number 4 and number 5. So that would be the side of your head. Okay, so you'd have the side of your head there, your skin and your hair would probably go there. So it depends on how big you want the eyes to be. I'm just going to lift that up a little bit. Oops, it doesn't look like it's that in focus. Right, okay, so I'm just going to do a pair of eyes, probably a little bit lower down. So that's the middle. You might decide to work out what your nose is going to be. So there's my nose. So if I've worked out my nose, I know that one of my eyes goes there and the other one is going to go there. So I'm referencing a picture. So I'm going to look really closely at the shape of the eyes, because we're sort of going back to year 7 work now, where we did our portraits. It's a little bit of a review. Can you remember? And also, because we're doing an observational drawing, if you're drawing actually from a mirror, that's primary, because you're actually looking at something. Whereas if it's a photograph, it's going to be secondary. Comes down to doing the pupils. Have a look at how much you can actually see. It's very rare that you can see everything of the coloured part of the eye. Okay, it's usually a bit disappears in your eyelid, top and bottom. Got your pupils. Oops. Try and get them in the middle. Now, then I've got the bridge of my nose, which is a little bit narrower. Okay, that's going to come up, and then I'm going to have my eyebrow line that's going to be there. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're doing eyes is straight away at this point, they draw on their eyelashes. Well, actually, your eyelashes are going to be the last bit that you're going to do. So again, I'll just work on half of this so then you can see. So I'm going to shade mine because my background's in colour. I'm going to look at shading my piece. Now, remember when you're shading, you have a tonal range from black right the way through to the white paper. So remember, you've got this full tonal range that you can use. So we're using all these skills that we've been teaching you over the past year and a half. Okay, so even though the whites of your eyes are white, you still need to soften them down a little bit. Have a look for the highlights that you can see in the eye. I tend to draw those in. So then I remember not to shade them. Now, the coloured part of my eye, on the one that I'm looking at, it's really dark on the outside and it gets lighter as it comes into the middle. So just doing little lines and sort of flicking your pencil. Rotate your paper around, because if you look at an eye really closely, there's sort of two different types of eyes. You usually have eyes that are called flat colour, where you can't really see any detail. A lot of people that have got brown eyes tend to have a flat colour, so it's usually just dark to light. If you've got different coloured eyes, you can see all these little lines of the colour just travelling into your eye, and you get these lights and darks. And it's this attention to detail that we want to see in your work. I want to see that you're looking. You're not just going, oh, it's an eye, and I'm just going to colour it in. Okay? So we've got that bit around there. Soften it down a little bit. Ideally, you need to use a B pencil if you've got one at home. If you're using a HB, if it doesn't have anything written on it, that's going to be a little bit harder to do any shading. But because we're working from home, we're just going to use whatever we've got. You might want to do this in colour. Okay, so you can see there I've got my eye. So now I'm going to think about shading. Now, because this is inside the letterbox, it's disappearing behind there, so it needs to be a bit darker as it comes out from there. So I'm actually going to open my letterbox up now, because I'm going to go beyond that with my shading. So with the face that I've got, there's sort of shadows underneath the eye. So I'm going beyond my rectangle. Okay, just makes your life that little bit easier. Now, because it's disappearing, I'm going to just go from dark to light from the bottom upwards. And what that's going to do, blend that down, is then when I close it, because it's going darker as it goes underneath, it's going to make it look like it's actually disappearing, as if the person is actually behind the letterbox. So again, you can keep building that up. Okay, so I've got the detail here. You might want to use a rubber to pick out some of your highlights again. So if it's gone a little bit too dark, just come in with a rubber. Really look at the creases, because your eye's open, your eyelid disappears around the ball of your eye. So depending on whether you're looking at shallow set eyes or deep set eyes, it'll just depend on what happens with that. So then we've got our shading coming round our nose. Okay, so I've got that coming round. Now the bridge of our nose will be lighter, but again, because we're coming behind the letterbox, I do need to just take a little bit of the tone just upwards, but the bridge of the nose will be a little bit darker. So when you're working on this, we do want you to time yourself, set yourself an hour, like you would have in a lesson, to work on it. Okay? So got this bit that's going underneath, so just start dark, and as I come towards my brow line, you'll notice I haven't drawn my eyebrows yet, because all those little bits of detail we're going to add on afterwards. So this is to make it feel like it's actually going into that letterbox, as if the person is actually behind it. Okay, it's creating an illusion. Okay, this is the front of my forehead, so even though it's darker up there, this needs to come lighter quicker, because this is heading to my nose. Again, just blend it with your fingers. So if I close that down now, we're getting that feeling that that's actually going behind. Okay, so you're going to carry on working on that. When you've done it all, what you're then going to do is put some glue just around the edge and glue that shut. So that'll all be shut. And then what you need to send me this week are 2 photos. So it's a photo of your letterbox shut. Some of you have asked you to work on this a little bit more. And then a photo with it open. Now, if you want to, you could put something on the back of that. So I might decide just to come in with my tea and coffee. So I don't want it to look too white. So I might just add a little bit of colour just on the back of that, just so that it doesn't look too standy outy. Okay? So that's the work then that I want you to do this week, and I really look forward to seeing what everybody does.